This is RBN, the Republic Broadcasting Network.
Welcome to the Michael Rivero What Really Happened radio program.
And welcome to our show. It is Monday, November 30th, 2020, last day of the month. Tomorrow's the 1st of December. And we are well and truly into the Christmas holidays around here. In fact, it is snowing outside here at Santa Claus, Indiana. And it was a little heavier earlier today, but they're saying it's going to last into the evening. And so we'll see what kind of snow we have when we get up tomorrow morning. And a little bit later than I was expecting, but it definitely is here now. And we have to drive carefully and all the rest of it. Anyway, we have a lot to talk about today. And as usual, I'm going to talk about news until we run out of news. Then we will open up the phone lines, probably in hour number 2, for you to call in with your comments, questions, observations, and opinions. And as usual, Mike is in our control room, taking care of business, keeping us out of trouble, and making sure all the little needles are going to the right spot on the little dial there. So let's get right on into it. As I mentioned last Friday, every day that goes by, more and more information surfaces about just how crooked this last election was here. And according to this article I'm looking at out of Bethesda.com, there's a new analysis out showing that Biden was winning nearly impossible margins on the mail-in ballots in Pennsylvania. So Donald Trump was absolutely right. Those mail-in ballots were a big part of the fraud here. And by the way, one of the articles we just put up at whatreallyhappened.com are 20 things that indicate that something smells about this last election here. Now, up in Pennsylvania, another whistleblower has come forward. This is a poll watcher who has come forward to say that they saw USB cards, the same USB cards, run through the voting machines more than 20 times to run up votes for Joe Biden. And of course, they confirmed the story about how 47 USB cards went missing. And so, again, I mean, this has gone beyond whether you want Biden or Trump as president. This is now in the realm of, do we, the people, have a voice in the running of our country? And if we don't, it's time to ask some very serious questions. Over at CraigBrettMedium.com, he has an article talking about what's going on in Pennsylvania. Now, over the weekend, the Pennsylvania Supreme Court ruled against a lawsuit by President Trump that alleged his observers were blocked from observing the ballot count. All 5 Democrat justices decided against him, while the 2 Republican justices dissented from the majority. Well, as it turns out, looking at those Democratic judges, you start to see a pattern, because 3 of those Democrat justices were elected in 2015 in a campaign that set a national record for spending in a Supreme Court race. Now, these judges, Kevin Doherty, David Wecht, and Christine Donahue, raised $3.98 million, $2.88 million, and $1.95 million, respectively. The closest Republican candidate had only $984,000. So somebody was pouring tons of money in there to make the court Democrat, to just load it up here. Okay, Senator Rand Paul basically has come on out saying there is an election statistical anomaly. And he's saying that Donald Trump's margin to defeat was covered by overnight data dumps in 4 key battleground states. And he's talking about data dumps between 1:34 and 6:31 in the morning. And of course, when he tweeted that out, Twitter slapped, the usual banner on there. This claim of election, fraud is in dispute. No, it's not. I mean, there's just way, way too much evidence on this thing here. There is a data expert, Justin Hart, and he helped raise millions of dollars for Mitt Romney's 2012 presidential campaign. And he's looking at the vote tabulation data. And again, he is finding anomalies in there, suggesting that a lot of the Trump votes went missing. And Trump has retweeted charts from Justin Hart questioning the vote tabulations, including retweeting Hart's calculation showing that Trump would have had to lose votes in Pennsylvania if the real-time individual time-stamped entries from the New York Times were accurate. So again, experts are looking at this and they keep finding all of these things that should not be there. And let's see, another story. This one is coming out from twitchy.com. Pollster is explaining why the 2020 election is deeply puzzling. That article has a lot of statistics and mathematics in it. And this is Kyle Becker, and he's this pollster, and he's saying there are so many irregularities about the election. It's like they weren't even trying to hide it. Which means either they were being very dumb about it or they wanted to rub it in your face to say, yes, we stole the election. What the heck are you going to do about it here? Yet another article on the same topic. This is from The Spectator. The legitimacy of the Biden win is buried by objective data. And it's talking about a growing body of evidence ranging from straightforward ballot audits to complex quantitative analysis suggests the tabulation of the votes was characterized by enough chicanery to alter the outcome of the election. That, of course, being the whole point of election fraud. And apparently a consensus is developing among the auditors of the publicly available voting information released by the states, and it contradicts the narrative being put out by the Democrat and the corporate media. And the more data experts see, the less convinced they are that Biden won. Okay, another whistleblower has come out of Michigan. This is in Cuz Blue. And this activist, Adam DeAngeli, has come forward and he's blown the whistle, saying that he was the person behind hashtag Detroit Leaks, which showed the plan to make the steal. And he's basically saying, he saw this plan to destroy all provisional ballots to hurt the Republicans. So there we are. All righty. This Michigan judge who tossed the pro-Trump voter fraud lawsuit came on down and tossed it, saying the witnesses were not credible. But this guy has basically a record of releasing hard criminals and child molesters back into the public, violent felons here. Now, here's where the story gets really interesting. Judge Timothy C. Batten Sr. issued an order on yesterday, to freeze all Dominion voting machines in the state of Georgia, ordered them to keep them in their pristine current states. They could not be erased. They could not be reset. Then just a few hours later, he reversed that and issued a new order saying it was okay for the machines to be erased, at which point Secretary of State of Georgia, Brad Raffensperger, ordered the Dominion machines in the state to be wiped. Well, it's flipped back once before, because apparently earlier today, that same judge issued a third order, again stating the voting machines are to be preserved and not wiped or reset. So we'll see what's going to happen there. I have a feeling they're going to come back and say, too late, we wiped them when you told us we could. And again, in Georgia, a Dominion representative who was scanning ballots in Floyd County, Georgia, used to work for Kamala Harris' campaign. He worked as an official photographer for the campaign last year and somehow wound up scanning ballots in the election. And I don't think that is just a coincidence. Another article, this one's coming out of Cuz Blue. Officials had something to hide. There is enough preponderance of evidence to doubt the result. And this is a Democrat elections observer saying that the Georgia vote was corrupt. Now, down in Pennsylvania, they're talking about these data dumps that happened in the early morning hours. And some people were watching all night and they caught some of this stuff, on TV. when the vote totals were being updated rather by the corporate media, and they were recording it, and they would see these huge numbers come in. And apparently, an expert testifying to the Pennsylvania Senate flagged a batch of ballots that recorded some 570,000 votes for Joe Biden and only 3,200 for Trump. That's Biden 99.4% and Trump just 0.6%. And that just does not seem to match with what was going on with the rest of the country. And apparently the Pennsylvania legislature is looking at simply declaring their election, the presidential election, illegitimate, and simply assigning the state's electors to Donald Trump. Unfortunately, the governor of the state will probably veto that, but it shows how intense this conflict is becoming here. Now, Donald Trump is on the warpath. He was speaking out yesterday, blasting the judge's rejections of all the legal challenges he's made on the 2020 election here. And he came on out and said, we're not allowed to put in the proof. And the judges are saying, you don't have standing. And Trump was on Fox News. He said, I would like to file one nice, big, beautiful lawsuit talking about this and many other things with tremendous proof. We have affidavits. We have hundreds and hundreds of affidavits. And he says, you mean as president of the United States, I don't have standing? What kind of a court system is this? Well, it's a one-word answer. It's corrupt. It's been bought off. It's been pressured. Because obviously a candidate in the election has standing to bring forward evidence of election fraud. I mean, that just makes perfect sense to me. Now, the other day we were talking about the fact that the FBI has not investigated any instances or allegations of election fraud from the 2020 election. Well, I guess they're deciding they need to sort of act like the FBI. And apparently they are now requesting the files from people who allegedly voted in multiple states. And I don't expect anything to come of it. This is just the FBI covering its rear end and saying, well, look, we did look at it and, we didn't really find anything. Now, here's an interesting story. I haven't been able to get a confirmation on it. This is coming from republicansvoice.com. And they're claiming to have a recording of a phone call to a Chinese manufacturer requesting a bulk order of fake U.S. ballots. And, of course, each state is responsible for producing their own ballots, and maybe some of them legitimately went to a Chinese printer. I think that's a very stupid thing to be doing here. But according to this article, again, this is evidence of chicanery out there. Okay, from realclearpolitics.com, they've got an article basically saying why millions of people do not believe Trump lost. And that includes yours truly here. And they're saying that this is dividing the country, and that is certainly true. And of course, the political establishment and the corporate media are dismissing it all as conspiracy theories. And they draw a parallel with the assassination of President John F. Kennedy, which was officially blamed on Lee Harvey Oswald, a former Marine who had defected to the Soviet Union several years earlier and then returned to the United States with his Russian bride and their newborn daughter. Of course, Oswald never got to stand trial for the assassination because he was himself murdered by Jack Ruby, a shadowy mob-associated bar owner. And anyone who didn't believe Oswald did it was labeled as a conspiracy theorist. And in fact, the term conspiracy theorist was invented by the CIA as a propaganda tool to dismiss those who questioned the official story of the assassination without having to answer the questions which were being asked. And if you've looked at my JFK page on my website, there was certainly evidence there that what really did happen in Dealey Plaza was not as we were all told about it. We are the most lied to people on the face of planet Earth. Now, apparently there is an election fraud scandal involving Native Americans in Arizona and Nevada and a bunch of other states. And apparently according to this article that came out of the Gateway Pundit, this operation was partially funded by Soros and government agencies. And apparently it all surrounds this organization called Vote Native. And apparently voters in these Native American enclaves were given gift cards, televisions, electronics, and even resort stays in exchange for voting Democrat. And these efforts were largely coordinated by the National Congress of American Indians, which is the parent organization of Vote Native. Now, according to their website, NCIA is partnered with the Open Society Foundation, which was founded and funded by George Soros. The group also lists the Department of Agriculture, the Department of Defense, the Department of Health and Human Services, the Department of the Interior, the Department of Justice, the Environmental Protection Agency, and the Small Business Administration as governmental partners. Now, I don't think I need to remind you that giving anybody anything in exchange for a vote is a violation of election law. And it's just another reminder that Donald Trump literally had the entire machinery of government working against him. And if he does succeed in pulling off a Supreme Court victory, and has the election thrown into the House of Representatives where they will vote him back in for a second term, I hope he puts on those presidential brass knuckles and starts going after all these agencies and corporate media and social media that worked so hard against him. You know, it's time to just take care of business, Donald. Okay, here's another article. This one is from antiempire.com. This is getting away from the election itself. And the headline is "Mainstream is a Misnomer." What you're reading is regime media. For those of us who've been following along for a long time, there's no surprise to this. And basically saying that, you know, if the U.S. corporate media was being run by the government, would its coverage of anything be any different from what it is now? And the answer, of course, is no. We get nothing but the official government view on vaccines, on COVID-19, on global warming, on what bad people the Iranians are, on what bad people the Chinese are, on what bad people the Russians are. That's all we're fed all day long by the corporate media. And even Fox News is not worth watching anymore. I'm watching old reruns of Star Trek. I've gotten so fed up with them. All righty. Over in Michigan, people there are pretty much fed up with Governor Whitmer. And apparently the Michigan County Board is officially supporting firing the governor after all the lockdown nonsense that's been going on here. Apparently de Blasio has done a U-turn, and he's reopening the New York City public schools starting on December 7th. And he says it's because we have so much proof now of how safe they can be. However, students and staff will undergo weekly COVID tests. Now, the schools reopened here in Indiana just today, and so they're sending them back there here. Anthony Fauci is saying, open up all the schools, but close the bars. And out in California, they're closing the churches, but opening the bars. And so one church got the bright idea of rebranding itself as a family-friendly strip club so that they could stay open and hold services. And I think that's probably one of the funniest and cleverest things I've seen out of this whole COVID-19 fiasco here. Apparently over in New York City, there's one bar that refuses to comply with the virus mandates. They have declared themselves an autonomous zone. Over in Great Britain, a tequila bar owner has registered his Nottingham venue as a church in order to keep open legally under the Tier 3 COVID restrictions here. And yeah, I can imagine a lot of people are in those bars worshiping whatever, you know, the spirits. There's all these spirits up along the wall that you can worship there here. Over in Colorado, apparently they have moved several counties. Oh, I got to take a break for commercials. Now, time flies when you're having fun. All right, we're going to take a break for commercials. We will be right back.
Hello, I'm Dr. Leonard Horowitz. I was right 30 years ago in warning the world about threatening lab virus outbreaks, AIDS, and Ebola. I was right 20 years ago when FBI Director Robert Mueller made me a suspect in the anthrax mailings because I warned the Bureau before the CIA's biocrime and Cipro sales psyops happened. I was right about COVID-19 being an AIDS-laced mutagen planned to resurge this fall to excuse officials' profitable depopulation globalization agendas. And I was right about the only safeguards being antioxidants and holy spiritual sustenance. Vitamin C, D, zinc, chlorophyll, oxygen, and oxysilver especially transmits the frequency resonance to neutralize the expanded function bioweapon. Oxysilver is a double superconductor of the healing power of love. It is the first nutraceutical invented to amplify prayer power and the faithful, loving intention of your heart. Buy, try, and stockpile Oxysilver through healthyworldstore.com.
Folks, we're living in a world the likes of which we've never perceived any clearer than we do now. The plan for global governance has been in the works for generations and would have likely fiat currency, no child left behind, and then Common Core education introduced to our schools to dumb us down, vaccines, pharmaceuticals to lobotomize us, GMO foods, insertion of compromised or bought and paid for politicians, judges, mainstream media propaganda, all pieced together like a puzzle designed to ultimately bring the world under submission. But with all their strategy, they forgot one thing: knowledge. And knowledge is power. With knowledge, their bombardment is nullified. Folks, with that, as brilliant and knowledgeable as you've become, among the wisest audience of any radio audience in the world, and you are, I want you to take a moment to reflect and ask yourself, how much of that knowledge did I obtain from Republic Broadcasting Network? How high has my consciousness been raised since I've been a listener? How fast am I now able to discriminate truth from fake news by being a Republic Broadcasting listener? How clear am I now able to see the world since I've been listening to RBN? Ask yourselves those questions, folks. Then ask yourself, what is that knowledge worth to me? Like my morning coffee, how would I survive without it? A voice of truth in a sea of lies. Do we not all need to make sure it survives? Like public broadcasting, we are now finding we can only survive with listener support. Censorship, advertisers being attacked, truth itself being attacked. It's the only way through this. We at Republic Broadcasting humbly ask you to become a supporter. Look at your budget and make a determination of what Republic Broadcasting is worth to you and what you can afford on a monthly basis. Go to republicbroadcasting.org and pledge 20, 30, 40, 50, if possible, 100 a month or more if it's affordable. Click the donate button and become a regular monthly donor. Assure both us and yourself that Republic Broadcasting truth will continue to flow like that morning coffee. The network thanks you.
If you got the money, honey, we got the bombs. We'll plant 'em anywhere you like and blow up anyone. Whip this world into a frenzy, killing babies, dads, and moms. If you got the money, honey, we got the bombs. If you got the money, well, we won't say we did. The towers
here, and a friendly reminder and a nudge in the ribs that Republic Broadcasting Network is in the middle of a perpetual fundraiser, and it's the Christmas giving season. So I'm going to shamelessly try and link this all to Santa Claus, the guy, not our town. And we need your help to keep doing what we're doing. This fight over who's in control of this country is not over, and it looks like it's going to drag on for a really long time. Biden has already indicated that if he succeeds in this election steal, he's going to come after the independent media. So we really need your help to fight what is essentially a virtual war. So thanks to everybody who's already donated, and for those who have not yet, the postal address to send a check, money order, or if you prefer anonymity, cash, is Republic Broadcasting Network, 2251 Double Creek Drive, number 302, Round Rock, Texas, 78664. The phone number where you can make a credit or debit card donation, because we don't know how to actually stick cash through that phone yet, is 800-724-2719, extension 3. And of course, all of this donation information is also at the top of republicbroadcasting.org. The network thanks you. Okay, so we're talking about Colorado, and apparently they moved several counties into the red level. This is the second highest measurement on its COVID-19 dial. And they're going to implement new regulations on restaurants, gyms, and other parts of the economy to combat the virus. But over in Weld County, which is a county in the northern part of the state with roughly 250,000 people, they said no. They are refusing to enforce the lockdowns here. And it's a sign of the civil disobedience on this matter that is spreading across the country. We saw it all over Europe, and now it's coming here. People are just fed up. They're no longer believing that COVID is this horrible disease that was going to have piles of dead bodies in the streets. And of course, they're trying to rush out the vaccine now so that everybody will get the shot and they'll make their money. But a lot of people are saying they're not going to get the shot. The president of Brazil said he's not going to get the vaccine. Now, here's kind of an interesting little story about, the lockdowns and stuff over in Atlanta. And apparently there is a school that is locked down for the students, but they're opening it up as a location for the filming of the next Spider-Man movie. And when I first heard that, I thought that's very unfair. And then I realized, of course, Spider-Man wears a mask. So I guess it's okay. I guess it's okay to do that. Anyway, over in Great Britain, actually everywhere here as well, the lockdown is devastating the economy. Poverty is soaring all over the place. And basically, they're saying that the lockdown recession represented the deepest fall in economic output in 300 years. Now, my theory, of course, is that our economy, the global economy, was headed for a major crash anyway, because, first of all, linking all those private central banks together meant that when one went down, they would all go down. And we saw warning signs of a weak economy long before COVID-19 ever showed up. But I think the plan is they're going to blame the pandemic for the coming depression. I think that's what they're getting ready to do. Now, Dr. Fauci is warning it's going to be months before children get the COVID vaccine because they want to wait to see how the vaccination affects adults. I actually think that's kind of a smart thing to do. If you remember what happened back in 1976 with the swine flu vaccinations. So we're going to see, I'm getting a message in my control room window saying that a lot of businesses in Colorado outside of Weld County are refusing to go along with the lockdown. Well, good for them. I really do think it's just, remember back in March, this was only going to be for a few weeks. And here we are on the doorstep of December. Anyway, let's talk about the international news here. A lot of people are wondering about how Biden is going to change foreign policy if he succeeds in stealing the White House, which unfortunately is looking more and more certain. And they're asking if the America First foreign policy of Donald Trump is going to be thrown in the trash can because Joe Biden's policy seems to be America is back on the world stage. And so they're talking about, humanitarian bombing of a Pax Obama. And Barack Obama is out there trying to deny that this is his third term. But if you look at how many people who served in the Obama administration have been named to Biden's team, it becomes very obvious who's pulling the puppet strings. Okay, we got to take another break for commercials. It is really starting to snow out there, and we'll be right back.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Homeowners, if your lender has gone out of business or sold your transaction to another lender or servicer, you may be the victim of a wrongful foreclosure, resulting in the loss of your home. If you've already lost your home, are in foreclosure, or even in good standing, you can challenge the mortgage transaction's illegal issue, and your property can be restored to you, and your foreclosure can be stopped or reversed, and the mortgage transaction declared unenforceable. State laws, U.S. title codes, the Uniform Commercial Codes, and U.S. Supreme Court rulings have upheld that defective mortgage documentations can reverse or stop foreclosures and enforce property title claims in favor of the homeowner. We are having successes in stopping the process of foreclosure, the enforcement of the foreclosure judgments, the sale of property, and evictions after the sale. We are not attorneys, and we don't give legal advice. We are a professional team of legal researchers, providing forensic mortgage audits and expert witnesses. We have the knowledge to produce the evidence and enforce laws regarding your legal issues. We've been in business for 12 years without a complaint. Consultations are free, and we provide a free title search to confirm if your mortgage has legal defects. Please call 855-253-3748. 855, 2, keep it today.
Extend your life with Extendovite. Extendovite really works. Here are some reviews from Amazon.com. Nikki, great product. Have to try it for a few months to see results. After taking Extendovite for about 6 months, I have noticed improvement on the numbness of my hands and wrists from carpal tunnel. I will continue to buy the product. Ken Peaks, 5 out of 5 stars. Works as advertised. This formula is very powerful. Be careful to follow directions. I am feeling much better. My heart rate and blood pressure has stabilized, and my lower edema has reduced. Lower leg pain due to blood clots has disappeared. Thank you. To order, call 1-877-928-8822. That's 1-877-928-8822, or visit our website at heartdrop.com. Extend your life with Extendovite.
Is your property a financial burden and causing you grief? Have you tried to sell but can't find buyers? Or are you just too busy to sell your property? Don't worry, we have the right solution for you. We buy properties as is, with cash, close in 30 days, and pay all closing costs. Our service is ideal for property owners who are in pre-foreclosure, have high-end repair costs, experiencing financial hardship, going through costly divorces, are relocating, need cash for retirement, suffering family loss, or have tax liens. Whatever your situation may be, we can help you sell your property and get the money you need. If you own a single-family home or multiple family units, call us for a free consultation at 888-910-1037. That's 888-910-1037. Or visit our website at cashingproperty.com. That's cashingproperty.com. Sell your property fast and leave all your worries behind.
Working 2 jobs ends never seem to me. She often goes hungry so her babies can't eat. Fatherless son wears torn clothes to school. We're making fun of him's the only golden rule. She doesn't know she's a favorite daughter.
Welcome back to our show here, and we're talking about a potential Biden administration and what its foreign policy is going to be. And apparently, Joe Biden is already promising that he is going to send troops back into Iraq and Afghanistan. And apparently, Biden said in his speech, Americans today are more divided than ever before. Well, that happens when you try and steal an election. And those deep divisions are reflected here in Washington at the highest levels of government. But apparently, Biden is saying they're going to return troop levels to 10,000 in both Iraq and Afghanistan. So all those troops who came home, don't unpack. You're going back, it looks like. All righty. Now, we had this situation where an Iranian nuclear scientist, their top scientist, was assassinated. Mohsen Fakhrizadeh was ambushed in his car in Absard City. But if you go back and you look at it, 5 of Iran's nuclear scientists have been assassinated over the last 10 years. Apparently, it's a high-risk job, and I don't know who's covering their life insurance. And so, this is apparently to try and keep Iran from moving into the modern world. Now, remember, Iran is allowed certain nuclear activities under the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty. They're allowed to have nuclear power plants, medical isotopes, industrial applications. And nobody has found any evidence whatsoever that they're attempting to build a nuclear weapon. Okay, but Israel still wants a war with Iran as long as Americans are going to fight it here. Now, over in Africa, apparently Ethiopia and Eritrea, who used to be enemies, have now become friends, and they're working together against the Tigray region. And, they're fighting against a common enemy. And this war has been going on for about 3 weeks now. Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed has claimed victory in his military campaign because the army has seized Mekelle, and it's a major city. So that seems to be going along here. All right, here's an interesting little article. This is out of Russia Today. And it's basically saying, European leaders are just swooning over Biden's warmongering back to normal team. See, that's what they're selling this as, that constant war on the rest of the world is the normal, and that Trump's presidency, where he was pulling troops out and not starting new wars, was the aberration. And so apparently over in the EU, they are anticipating a Joe Biden administration, and they're out there rushing to congratulate him because, war is good for certain kinds of businesses, which, are publicly traded, and you can buy the stock in them and make a lot of money if there's a really cool war going on here. Now, Mike Pompeo is out there once again equating anti-Zionism with anti-Semitism, and suggesting that the global movement to boycott Israel is driven by hatred of the Jewish people. And so he's basically out there saying all criticism of Israel is anti-Semitic. Well, that would be like saying that all criticism of the Nazis is just being anti-German. The Nazis didn't really do anything that bad. You just hate the German people. And it's ridiculous when you look at it, and yet Israel has gotten away with this little scam for decades here. Now, over in France, there's been a bit of a kerfuffle in the streets. The French government had passed a bill that criminalized the filming of police, and this triggered all kinds of protests all over France and in Paris, and in some cases, the police were taking their helmets off and putting on their soft caps to show support for the protesters. Here, take my picture. I'm a handsome guy. Well, the French government has now done a U-turn, and they have basically dropped that bill. So once again in France, it is in fact legal to film the police doing their job. They are, after all, funded by the public. And being out in public, they don't really have a reasonable expectation of privacy. That's the principle that has guided lawsuits along these lines here in the United States of America. Okay. Over in China, they are now fielding a new stealth bomber, the H-20, which they say may be able to strike U.S. military bases far beyond the Chinese shores with nuclear missiles. This is coming from a British think tank. And apparently they're saying it can attack U.S. territories. And if they could figure out a place to forward base them, everybody's gearing up. It's going to be a big one. It's going to be a bad one here. All right, let's look at some of the economic news now. Apparently, 1/3 of all small businesses in New Jersey have closed down this year. And they're saying basically without federal dollars coming to New Jersey, the Main Street stores and other establishments are not going to make it through the winter. This is from Eileen Keene, the state director of the National Federation of Independent Businesses. Now, the Harvard-based data project tracktherecovery.org estimated that 31% of businesses closed down as of November 9th. And that number is just above the national average estimated by the website. This is the toll the lockdowns and the failing economy are taking on all of us. All right. All right. Sir Philip Green's Top Shop Empire Arcadia Group is looking at collapse. And they own high street labels such as Topshop, Burton, Dorothy Perkins, and they're saying they may fall apart in just days, which will result in the loss of 15,000 jobs. And this will be the biggest British corporate collapse of the coronavirus pandemic so far. All righty now. Apparently, in a move early November, self-styled gold market authority, the London Bullion Market Association, issued a letter to a group of leading bullion markets around the world, threatening to blacklist gold bullion from any country that fails to meet new LBMA recommendations covering gold sourcing and supply chains. Now, these recommendations have no legal standing, and it's basically an attempt to coerce the bullion markets into examining and verifying the supply chains of gold while forcing cooperation with regional and international organizations. So there are two aspects to this we need to keep in mind. One, there is a legitimate issue out there. There's a lot of fake gold. Remember, I mean, some years ago in Germany, they had gold bars they were going to melt down to make into metals and stuff, discovered they had tungsten cores. And it's a big, big problem. And for all we know, all the gold bars that are still inside Fort Knox all have tungsten cores. Nobody's allowed to look at them. Nobody's allowed to assay them. There hasn't been a full audit of Fort Knox in something like 50 years. Now, Bitcoin was headed up. Everybody was thinking, you know, yay, the good times are here. But apparently, Bitcoin fell 12.5% in a day, you know, and it hit a record high, and then it had a sharp fall. And people are saying, what's behind the drop? Is it just holders trying to cash in their gains for a profit? Or is somebody trying to manipulate Bitcoin to keep it from being competitive with, for example, the U.S. Federal Reserve note? Now, for people out there who are my age, and I know there's a lot of you who are, apparently the majority of seniors have been targeted by a scam regarding Social Security over the last 3 months. And apparently 47% of Americans have been hit with this scam. Not all of them have fallen for it. But basically, if you receive a text, email, or a phone call purporting to be from the Social Security Administration, be very, very suspicious. The people on the other end are likely fraudsters, and they're looking to catch seniors off guard and take advantage of their fears. So a little consumer protection warning out there. All righty. Turning to immigration and naturalization here. Joe Biden is slammed for saying he will immediately push a bill for a pathway to citizenship for 11 million undocumented people in America, rather than concentrate on COVID. And I'm going to take a wild guess here that these 11 million undocumented people in America voted for him in the last election. But he's apparently not going to focus on the COVID pandemic. Supposedly the vaccines are going out, and this is all going to go away here. Another interesting little statistic here. This is from Breitbart. Nearly half of the violent sex attacks in Italy are being committed by foreigners, according to data released by the Italian statistics agency ISTAT. And apparently they found around 42% of the violent sex crimes against women were committed by foreigners, with non-EU citizens representing a significant portion of sex attacks. So how's that open border thing working out for you here? Now, down in Australia, this story really bothers me. And there we go. This really bothers me. Apparently, down in Australia, there's an Australian couple who have a daughter. And the daughter claims that, she's 15 years old. She claims that she identifies as a male and she wanted to have the hormone therapy to basically become their son. And the parents said, no, we don't think that's a smart thing to do here. But apparently, Australian state authorities seized the child. Apparently, a magistrate in October basically seized the child, and they're going to put her in a foster home. Apparently, they seized her after she discussed suicide online. Now, the authorities saying they will not allow her to change gender, so it's dangerous to come back to the house because they'll mentally abuse her. And okay, let me rephrase that because the way it's written, it's not clear. The authorities are saying the parents will not allow the girl to change gender, and they're claiming it's dangerous for the girl to come back to the house because the parents will mentally abuse her, and they want the parents to consent to testosterone treatment. At some point, you have to understand there's parental rights that need to be looked at here. All righty, getting on to the weather. It's still snowing outside here. Apparently, over in Israel, they had some exceptionally heavy rains. And apparently, this was the Friday before Thanksgiving, and it triggered massive, massive floods. Apparently, 20 people had to be rescued from several buildings here. And boy, floods, rain, wildfires, COVID pandemic. Somebody does not like planet Earth, I think, here. All righty, getting into some science news. By the way, we're going to go ahead and open up the phone lines now. Area code 512-248-8252. NASA's Curiosity probe, their rover, has discovered signs of unimaginable Mars megafloods. And apparently Mars wet history is coming into focus. There was a study published in Scientific Reports that basically says there were megafloods, and deposits left behind by megafloods had been previously identified with orbiter data, and now Curiosity is confirming that at the ground level. Well, let me tell you what I think happened to Mars. There is a huge impact basin on the southern part of Mars called the Utopian Plain, Utopian Basin. And it's almost directly opposite the uplifted Tarsus region, where you find all these huge volcanoes, including Olympus Mons. And I think that at one point, Mars had a really good atmosphere and plenty of water, just like Earth, only a lot colder. And it got hit by a gigantic space rock that literally splashed the atmosphere out into space and, of course, splashed the water all over the surface, and eventually it too sublimated out into space as well. That's what I think happened. I can't prove it, but that's my theory here. All righty, we're going to start taking phone calls now, and we're going to start with Kelly in Austin. Hello, Kelly. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hi there, Mike. I've always been a data man.
Yeah.
I'm a geologist. I ended up with 30 hours of statistics in my background.
Mm-hmm.
And so I love data. Now, today, I read that tweet by Rand Paul and went to the report that he cited.
Yes.
And you need to look at this. And the analysis is compelling because they show that you have highly improbable ratios and margins in 4 cities alone.
Yes.
And it's in those 4 cities where these data dumps came in all at about the same time that shifted the margins to Biden. The fraud is evident. This is even more compelling than the Benford the Benford law analysis I looked at last week, which itself is damned interesting. But what I saw today is absolutely compelling. And if that's not enough to grab people's attention, I don't know what. But you need to look that up. I'll send you a link to that if you want.
I definitely would like to see that.
Yeah, it's not a short read. It's a relatively long read. It's a detailed read, and you got to like some math. But I tell you what, it is, as I said, it is compelling, and I think that in itself ought to get a lot of legislators off their duff to demand that something be done, not certifying this election.
All right. Well, Kelly, thank you very much.
I'll send that to you. Okay.
All right. Thanks an awful lot. You know, back in 2016, there was a lot of election fraud there. But when Trump had his landslide, Hillary's campaign didn't really have anything set up to try and counter it. They didn't have an emergency procedure. I think this time they did. And when they saw Trump was still beating Biden, that's when they did those data dumps, even though they were incredibly, incredibly obvious. We got to take a break for commercials. Back with more phone calls after these few words.
What would you say if I told you we have a new tool that will increase production and lower maintenance costs for your meat processing company? And it would pay for itself in just 6 weeks.
When pigs fly!
The new Ease Off Model Easy 4 replaces old spring-style carcass droppers and is faster, safer, and more reliable. The Ease Off lowers or lifts 1,000 pounds to or from your rail automatically using our remote control.
Sounds expensive. Can I afford it?
Can you afford not to try the Ease Off? It installs fast with just 3 bolts in place of your current dropper. The effortless operation will reduce fatigue and injuries, speed up your line, eliminate downtime, and increase profit.
How can I order my Ease Off?
Go to easeoff.com, EAZEOFF.com, and hurry, because we are offering $200 off on the new Easy 4 for a limited time. Easeoff.com. We make pigs fly. Cows, too. Ease Off LLC, Summersville, Missouri, 417-932-6419.
Tired of being lied to by mass media? It's growing more and more apparent today that news is received less and less through standard media outlets. Even with a growing audience every day, RBN is beginning to direct more efforts into social media. Social media and the use of the internet is fast becoming the primary source of people for news, regardless of demographic. RBN has set out to provide some of the best news on the internet through republicbroadcasting.org, and also has begun to use the tools to our advantage by way of social media. Republic Broadcasting is now operating a Facebook page to function as yet another avenue to have our collective voice reach new audiences across not only America, but across the globe as well. The Facebook page features not only news, but also an RBN player to listen to our broadcasts. Get involved by visiting facebook.com/Republic Broadcasting and liking our page and share it with your friends and family, because you can handle the truth.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
After about a month of Extendovite, I don't know what it is about the circulation factor. I was able to increase the weight, increase the amount of sets I could do. It has to do with the oxygen getting to the blood. You should market this as an athletic performance. And I don't change anything about my diet or anything. I just thought, this is amazing. Bilberry extract is got something called resveratrol in it, which is the same stuff that you get from red wine. It's also good for eyesight. And I was reading that the Royal Air Force during World War II would give their pilots bilberry jam so they could have better night vision stuff. This is amazing.
To order, call 1-877-928-8822. That's 1-877-928-8822. Or visit our website at heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero. You're listening to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Here is your host, Michael Rivero.
Welcome back to our show. We're going to go back to the phones now to Mark in North Carolina. Hello, Mark. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind today?
How you doing, Mike? Mike, a couple of things. I think a lot of us being too pessimistic, and I know my mood flows one way or the other sometimes, both ways. But everything I'm looking at now, when you really look at the important stories, not at the mainstream media, I don't even bother with the mainstream media. That includes the fake news network. I go to people like Steve Turley, who goes into the inside, or even on the InfoWars, and even things that General Flynn has said. I don't think this thing is hopeless at all. I think it looks to me more and more like something's about to break, and something's going to be showed that this is the fraud that everybody knows it is. The amount of ballots that were there way exceed the amount of ballots that were actually made available in these mail ballots. I think that if something is going to break, I don't know whether it's going to be the Supreme Court that decides this, or just the various legislatures, state legislatures, but this is not going to be tolerated. It's so obvious that see, what happened is they thought that this is going to be a close election. They were going by the polls, but they knew even their internal polls told them that the fact that Biden would win the landslide was nonsense. They knew it was going to be a close election. So they were prepared for that. They were not prepared for Trump to win in the landslide. So that's why they had to just rush these votes in, even, hit these fresh ballots they had evidently now coming in from China.
Yes.
And, marking that little circle there just for Trump and not bother going down ticket because they were rushing it. That's the whole thing. The fact these various cities, they wanted a whole, various cities in these key states stopped voting at about the same time also tells you something. It is so obvious that I don't think there's no way this can be tolerated. There's no way America's going to accept this clown as our president. I'm talking about Biden. There's no way that's going to happen. And I believe, and I've told you this before, and the fact that Flynn is now involved very heavily, and you've got the special ops, guy that's now the head of the secretary, who's now the Secretary of Defense, tells me that Trump has no intention of leaving. When push comes to shove, he will launch a counter coup. You can call it martial law or whatever, but it'll really be a counter coup because this is a coup. That's all it is. This is not a stolen election. This is a coup. And actually, they've attempted a coup since Trump was elected, since he first became president. Now, you know as well as I know. I've made it clear I'm not a great Trump fan. I've been off his train I don't like even the fact that this. I don't like what happened to this Iranian scientist now. Okay, it's murder. I don't know whether we're behind it or not, or whether Israel was behind it or what. We shouldn't be friends with Israel in the first place. We shouldn't trust them. But that's besides the. But the thing is this: at least Trump is not talking about going after our guns. He's not talking about locking us down more. He's not talking about a mass mandate or even forced
Mark, I got to put you on hold. And don't hang up. We'll be right back after station identification.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7 with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
The Republic Broadcasting Network late-night premiere show of Red Pill Hardcore is hosted by activists that want to hear from you. the listeners, so that you can get involved in the activism, please call in at 800-313-9443 at 10 p.m. to enter the discussion. To book yourself as a guest, call our studio at 202-657-5715 or contact RBN staff. Remember, keep it real and take the red pill.
You're listening to the Republic Broadcasting Network, because you can handle the truth.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero, putting America first, second, and third. Here is your host, Michael Rivero.
Welcome back to our show. Hour number 2. The phone lines are open. Area code 512-248-8252. And we're talking with Mark in North Carolina. And I agree with what you say. There are a lot of people who are just going to ignore a Biden administration, and not go along with it because it's not seen as legitimate.
Yeah, and you see the freaks that he wants to put in there, including the so-called health commissioner, this Shishi, that actually is how are you going to call yourself a health commissioner in charge of health when you're about, I don't know how many pounds overweight with about 5 different chins? Gerald Salente just commented on that on InfoWars. I mean, come on. And these people are disgusting. Like, they hate us. They're elitist. Most of them are really freaks. A lot of them are inbred clowns. They're psychopaths that belong. Somebody who really wants to change themselves from a man into a woman or a woman into a man. As far as I'm concerned, I'm sorry, I'm not politically correct. These people have something wrong with them. I'm not talking about somebody who's a homosexual. I'm talking about somebody who wants to transfer themselves from a man to a woman, cut off their or whatever else. To me, these people are psychopaths. These are maniacs. They probably should be put in or at least treated psychologically. And any doctor, by the way, that performs one of these operations, to me, should be put in prison. And if they do it in a child, the doctor should be executed, I believe.
Well,
and the parents
I definitely agree that's child abuse here. But the big ugly secret. The big ugly secret of the trans community is that so many people who go through this gender reassignment have regrets after it's all over and wish they hadn't done it. They're trying to keep that under wraps. I have an interesting little email that just came into the mailbox here. It says, I feel like I'm living in a world gone mad. There are people getting irate because cows are being injected with hormones, but they're perfectly okay with young adolescents being injected with gender-changing hormones. It's insane.
Like I said, Mike, any doctor, so-called doctor, that does that to a young child, I believe should be tried and executed for that, because that's so horrible. Do that to a child. You're ruining that child. And the parents should be put in prison, for doing something like that. And yet in this crazy world of ours, that's considered normal. And there's a reason for that, Mike. If you look at these, what do you call it, technocrats?
Yes.
Okay? They have a thing about trannies, whatever you want to call them. Okay? The reason why, it's all part of their anti-human agenda to try to drastically reduce the world's population, because obviously these people are not going to reproduce. And this is why they favor all these crazy, insane so-called lifestyles, and are against the nuclear family. They're against the father, the nuclear family of a father and a mother and children. And it's so obvious what these people are about. And injecting people with all kinds of hormones, and even the food we eat. I mean, you talk about growth hormones for I make sure any meat or cheese I do eat, I don't eat that much. I eat very little meat, but the little I do eat, I make sure it comes from grass-fed cattle.
Yes.
No hormones.
Yes.
And non-GMO. Because that's the same thing with cheese. If I eat cheese, it's going to be from non-growth hormone cows or sheep or whatever else, goats even. But the problem is this stuff is so widespread, and that is damaging people, I think.
Yes.
Genetically modified food is damaging people. And this is what the Bill Gates' people want. Shouldn't people ask why Bill Gates has, I think, 500,000 shares in Monsanto? And I believe he's got a lot of shares in McDonald's also.
Yes.
They want to poison us, Mike. That's what they're about. It's plain and simple. And, I just don't know why. Well, people are waking up now, and that's encouraging also. You pointed out there in Colorado there, used to be a nice red state. And that's another thing, too. These cities are what's ruining this country, these big cities, because Colorado still is a red state once you get out of Denver. But the problem is these big cities get bigger and bigger, more and more populated, and a lot of times people come in from states like California, New York, and other, and other dumps around the country, and then they bring their vile lifestyles with them to these states, mostly to these big cities within those states. In those states, I think what has to happen, a lot of states have to break off from these, like, for instance, Washington, Oregon should break off from Seattle and Portland. And because most of Seattle, Washington, and Oregon, I've been there before, that's middle America. The eastern and central part of these states, the same thing California. The western, most of the western and central parts of California are middle America. They need to break off from these cities, from these coastal areas where these cities are, and even upstate New York. Upstate New York is not like New York City.
No, it isn't.
Upstate New York. It's beautiful. The people are wonderful. But the problem is, because New York City has such a huge population, same thing, by the way, in Chicago and Illinois, that they politically dominate these states. Shouldn't happen like that. We should have a county-wide electoral college, really.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we really need, because it's not right that these big cities get to dominate the entire state. And, Mike, that's pretty much all. I know you got other callers, so, I'm going to let it go at that, okay?
All right. Well,
thanks
an awful lot. All right. Thanks an awful lot for the phone call. And the phone lines are open. Area code 512-248-8252. And we're going to switch over to Miles in Maine. Hello, Miles. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Aloha, Michael. I agree with Mark, especially when he's talking about the food, but on his other topics too. And it's really refreshing to hear guys like Mark and we've had a host of new callers now come on and how should I say it? Give some real realization to President Trump. It's nice to know that we've got people recognizing now that Trump has kept us out of wars and different issues like that. And it's nice now. It's a shame that it had to come out in a way like this to see what we're really facing. But hey, people are coming around and people are seeing it. They are acting quite like the dictatorship here, especially when it comes to the realm of voting. And it's just really interesting and refreshing. You mentioned an article earlier, and you had mentioned a guy named Adam DeAngeli from Michigan. What was that? Where was that article out of?
I'm sorry. Could you back up? And I was distracted momentarily.
You mentioned an article about a whistleblower, Adam DeAngeli, out of Michigan.
Yes.
And what was that? Where was that article from?
It's already, unfortunately, scrolled off the talking points. I'd have to hunt it down through whatreallyhappened.com, but it's on one of the first two pages here. Okay.
Yeah. Well, I was just going to say, you got to be very, very careful with this Adam DeAngeli character.
Okay.
He's from the University of Michigan. He infiltrates campaigns. He misleads campaigns. He's got a history of that.
Okay.
He was with the Communist Party and the Affirmative Action Party at the University of Michigan, running for office there. So he's tried to run this transformation as to being some type of conservative, but he's been an infiltrator and a self-aggrandizer for a long time.
Oh, he's going to make an excellent politician then.
Well, and I think that was the direction he was always heading.
Yeah.
But I hope the Trump campaign is not just taking anything or one of their operatives from him, because he's got a past like that that's very, very suspicious.
Well, thank you for the warning. And yes, we do have to be very careful, because the opposition is looking for any ways they can embarrass the independent media with the planting of all kinds of false stories. And, I do try and weed those out, because I get sent a lot of really bizarre stuff. Yeah.
On the other hand, Michael, has the revelation come through with the attorney? Oh my God, the lady's name?
Sidney Powell.
Sidney Powell. Yeah. Has anything? She said she was going to file that big suit with some type of religious backing to it, or something like that.
Well, I know she filed a big lawsuit in Georgia, but I have heard nothing about it since then. And again, unless Sidney Powell puts out information herself, you're not going to see the corporate media cover any of these. The only coverage the corporate media is putting on any one of these legal challenges is when they're kicked out by the judge, or or Trump loses. They're not going to report on anything that's a real serious possibility of upsetting Biden's apple cart.
All righty. Well, Michael, have a great show. Thanks for the information.
All right. Thank you very much. We're going to let you go. The phone lines are open. Area code 512-248-8252. And we're going to go to Bruce in Texas. Hello, Bruce. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hey, how you doing, Mike?
Doing fine.
Did you eat turkey?
Yes, I did.
Oh, yeah, we got to keep those traditions up. They want to destroy them.
Yeah, I mean, they're already attacking Christmas, and around here, them's fighting words.
Yeah, heard that. Where do you live, Santa Claus?
Santa Claus, Indiana.
Yeah, I used to live near North Pole, Alaska, when I was in the Army.
Yeah, okay.
And they had a big Christmas system over there. Anyhow, the media, they're complicit. It's pretty damn obvious. And so these are all criminals. This is a giant conspiracy. It sounds crazy to say conspiracy, but what else do you call it, And as far as I'm concerned, and these judges, they won't even let the plaintiff present his evidence. They just throw him out. They said that Trump doesn't have standing.
I mean, that should be reversible on appeal.
Yeah, but how far? I mean, I was screwed once, and I got in a fight with a person who was the protected color. This was about 5 years ago.
Yes.
He threw the first punch. I threw the last one, and I was charged, and he wasn't even arrested. And so I'm really jaded on the judicial system. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, at this point, hopefully that the election goes the way that people want. But this is actually, you look at it, from 9/11 and even before, this is a rogue regime. This is an unlawful government. And I have no allegiance to it. I spent 10 years of my life in uniform. I look back on it, and, when you're young and idealistic, you think, I used to almost tear up when I would hear, John Philip Sousa songs and see the flag and all that. And now it means nothing to me. And, I would just have a hearty laugh if like a Saddam Hussein, Did you see that video when he achieved power and he had all these simpering politicians begging him for their lives and all that? I would love to see the crooks in this government just hang by a rope. It's untenable. We're gonna go on a rapid slide downward if Biden gets in. This is the beginning of the end, as far as I'm concerned.
I would agree with you. I would agree with you.
Yeah. Hey, they took one of my videos off of YouTube. Well, I don't have a real big account, but it gets some visitors. Mostly it's re-uploads of people who've been deplatformed, and one of them was on 9/11. And I received a notification that it was removed because of violation of hate speech. So discussing 9/11 is hate speech. Isn't that something?
That's sort of stretching the definition of hate speech a bit, out into an ellipse, I would say.
Yeah, there was no mention of any ethnicity or anything like that. Anyhow, that's all I got. I'll let the next caller come on and take care.
All right. Well, thank you very much for the call. And at the moment, there are no next callers. The phone lines are completely open. Area code 512-248-8252. And let's get back to some science news because I love science news. Okay. Apparently, SpaceX is about to break their record for rocket reusability. And apparently, it's going to happen tonight. And it will be the same rocket used for the 7th time. And it's going to launch the 16th batch of Starlink satellites. And so that's, go SpaceX. They're just doing such great stuff out there. Okay, we have another caller on the line. Tim in Illinois. Hello, Tim. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
How you doing, Mike?
Doing fine.
Really some great callers today. Some great points. I'm kind of calling all patriots here, and I'm a little bit inspired by Mike Rappaport, and he was talking about the coronavirus and that nobody really had it. So I did my own investigation. I looked in the CDC documents, especially for the COVID test, the PCR test, and he's absolutely correct. If I looked at the document, and they basically say that they don't have it. They don't have any isolated quantified amount of it.
Yeah,
exactly. So I ran it by a lawyer friend of mine. He hasn't gotten back to me. Maybe he doesn't want to touch it. Because what I would like to do is everything is predicated on there being a coronavirus.
Yes.
The shutdowns, the lockdowns, and I want to go to court. And I want to say, okay, let's start from the beginning. Prove that there's a coronavirus in the court of law.
I mean, a lot of people are starting to say it's just the seasonal flu, but they rebranded it for political purposes.
Exactly. Now everything it's called the SARS-CoV-2 virus, which causes COVID-19, which is the disease.
Yes.
So, and as we had Amy Coney Barrett in Chicago, I forget, it was the 7th or 2nd district that she was in. There was a lawsuit, and she ruled on it for Pritzker, and they were going about it for constitutionality and the churches and so forth. Where I would like to go is say, well, you're shutting everything down for a virus that science doesn't have, that they can't produce. As I understand it, what they've done is they've taken bits and pieces of RNA and genetic material, 37 pairs out of 3,000 in a string, put it through a computer as to what they think it should be, and they're calling that isolation of the virus. They really have not isolated an intact virus. So until they can prove that they actually have a virus, all of this is just a fraud. And I'm calling all patriots in every state to go to court, to take this to court on the predication of where is the virus. Now, Lynn Wood, I heard people call Lynn Wood on an interview, and they said they had a problem for constitutionality. And he said, look, I'm really busy what I'm doing right now. And I'm practicing in Georgia right now, but I have a constitutional law organization that you can contact. So if there's any constitutional organizations, I mean, this is just an idea that I have right now, but anybody listening in their states, this is a way for us to go on the attack. Because I truly believe that this is a coup, like your caller said.
Yeah.
I don't believe that this is going to happen. This is almost the Abraham Lincoln type decision that the president has to make. Everybody knows it was fraud. I just don't see it happening. Biden getting in.
Well, the only problem I have with your suggestion here, and I'm sorry to cut into you, but we're almost out of time on this segment. Is
great.
If Trump's lawsuits regarding election fraud are just being dismissed by judges who don't want to hear it, do you think any lawsuits regarding the myth of the coronavirus are going to get any further? That's the problem. Is the entire judicial system is compromised, and that's becoming more and more obvious each day that passes. when Trump and his lawyers are told they don't have standing to question the validity of the election. Anyway, thank you for the phone
You're
call.
absolutely right.
We got to take. All right, thank you. We got to take another break for commercials. Do call in and join us, 512-248-8252, and we'll be right back.
Have you been looking for a trusted long-term storable food company? We have a solution for you. Simply Clean Foods is dedicated to providing the best quality food you can buy next to fresh from a farmer's market. Our line of resealable fruits, vegetables, and meats are suitable for everyday use, and you won't have to worry about throwing away valuable groceries ever again. Our food is completely GMO-free, and our stringent quality controls, plus testing for heavy metals, makes us unique in the storable foods market. Simply Clean Foods' primary focus is to bring clean food to people all around the world and change the way we look at freeze-dried food in our daily cooking. When you purchase from simplycleanfoods.net, not only will you be receiving high-quality food, but you will also be supporting veterans in need across the country and those who are affected by natural disasters. Right now, Amazon Prime members will receive fast 2-day shipping. Go to simplycleanfoods.net. That's simplycleanfoods.net. But do it today.
Folks, we're living in a world the likes of which we've never perceived any clearer than we do now. The plan for global governance has been in the works for generations and would have likely been achieved by now, but for the fact that the globalists left open their Achilles heel. With all their tools, Federal Reserve System, fiat currency, no child left behind, and then Common Core education introduced to our schools to dumb us down, vaccines, pharmaceuticals to lobotomize us, GMO foods, insertion of compromised or bought and paid for politicians, judges, mainstream media propaganda, all pieced together like a puzzle designed to ultimately bring the world under submission. But with all their strategy, they forgot one thing: knowledge. And knowledge is power. With knowledge, their bombardment is nullified. Folks, with that, as brilliant and knowledgeable as you've become, among the wisest audience of any radio audience in the world, and you are, I want you to take a moment to reflect and ask yourself, how much of that knowledge did I obtain from Republic Broadcasting Network? How high has my consciousness been raised since I've been a listener? How fast am I now able to discriminate truth from fake news by being a Republic Broadcasting listener? How clear am I now able to see the world since I've been listening to RBN? Ask yourselves those questions, folks. Then ask yourself, what is that knowledge worth to me? Like my morning coffee, how would I survive without it? A voice of truth in a sea of lies. Do we not all need to make sure it survives? Like public broadcasting, we are now finding we can only survive with listener support. Censorship, advertisers being attacked, truth itself being attacked. It's the only way through this. We at Republic Broadcasting humbly ask you to become a supporter. Look at your budget and make a determination of what Republic Broadcasting is worth to you and what you can afford on a monthly basis. Go to republicbroadcasting.org and pledge 20, 30, 40, 50, if possible, 100 a month or more if it's affordable. Click the donate button and become a regular monthly donor. Assure both us and yourself that Republic Broadcasting truth will continue to flow like that morning coffee. The network thanks you.
Well, there's drugs to get you up, and there's drugs to help you get down. There's drugs you get from a doctor, and there's drugs you get downtown. And there's drugs that help your hearing, even drugs that help your sight. And there's drugs that help you think that every little thing is gonna be alright. Smoking, steam, and even shots.
Welcome back to our show here. We're going to go back to the phones to Tom in Baltimore. Hello, Tom. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind today?
Mr. Rivero, I wanted to compliment you on your shirt. You're looking really sharp today. Thank you for bringing back some great memories from yesteryear. The Baltimore Colts with Johnny U, one of the best football teams of all times. I should add, I want to thank God that my eyes aren't that good and I can't read the horizontal writing above the vertical Colts.
That's Indianapolis. I mean, right?
Yeah, I didn't need to hear that. We diehard fans in Baltimore still see them as our team, but you look sharp in that shirt, by the way. Also, I wanted to say hats off, pun intended, to my brothers in arms in France who helped to knock down that terrible legislation they were proposing. I'm a retired policeman from Baltimore City myself, and I'm glad to see my brothers doing the right thing over there in France. And thank you for bringing us that story.
Well, I brought it up here to illustrate the fact that, when the people take to the streets, government does tremble, and they will back down a little bit. Now, I don't want us to wind up in the situation that Belarus did, but I think the very obvious way in which this last election was stolen, we could easily see, rioting in the streets of America the way we saw in Belarus. And I don't like that idea, but at this particular point, Trump's got to take his case to the people, and the people have got to make their will known, because otherwise we're living in a dictatorship where, we're told every couple of years to go through the process of having an election. And then when it's all over, they say, well, here's who we've decided are going to be running things for the next 2 to 4 to 6 to 8 years.
You bring up some very, very important points indeed. And I'll close with this and let other callers get on. If one thing comes good out of all the troubles that our president has had from the courts, as you've mentioned, and from certain law enforcement agencies, I say that with quotes because certainly we've realized that they're not doing a lot of law enforcement, but a lot of shenanigans. The one good thing that comes from this is something that those of us in law enforcement have known for a long time, and that is that the court system is corrupt, that many federal law enforcement agencies are corrupt. And now the common person can see that if it can happen to the president, it can happen to any one of us. And I include myself, of course, with the common people. This is something that needs to be illustrated and talked about. I wish the president would talk about it more, because these things have been happening to the common man for decades upon decades. And now that it's happening to the president of the United States, people maybe will start to realize real change has to occur.
Well, you're absolutely right here. And judging by the email I'm getting, the people who call the show and people that I just talked to around here, plus text messages to family and everything, this was a wake-up call for the American people. And again, this has gone beyond whether it's Trump or Biden. People are very, very concerned that the government has gone completely rogue. And together with that, of course, they're discovering there's no part of the government that really seems to have any integrity and trustworthiness left. And again, I have been predicting for a few years now, more than a few actually, that the end of the United States of America is going to be a Soviet Union style collapse. And it looks like we're on the doorstep of that right now.
Yes, your statement is spot on, except I would change one thing. Our government hasn't gone rogue. It has been rogue. Thank you, Michael.
Yes, thank you very much for the phone call. And yes, you're right. It's been rogue for a long time, but they succeeded in hiding it. I mean, we know they were already rogue all the way back for the John F. Kennedy assassination. But the American people were naive and trusting. They believed Walter Cronkite and, the corporate media. And Huntley Brinkley, and they trusted the government to tell them what was really going on. Now it's a very, very different story. I mean, the American people have had it literally rubbed in their faces. Okay,
and Michael, we also have shows like yours who are also illustrating it. And again, that's a real service to your fellow man and your country. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for the phone call and for the kind words here. And I think Americans are really awakened to the reality of the nature of the government in this country that we live in. I don't know how many are going to try and go back to sleep so they can go back to pretending everything is hunky-dory. I don't think it's going to be that many. They may not talk about it out of fear or politeness or a misplaced sense of patriotism, but I think the rot at the heart of the government is now obvious to all. Okay, we're coming up here on another commercial break here. The phone lines are completely open. Area code 248-8252. I can't see my own phone number in the snow. All right, so we'll be back after these few words.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Homeowners, are you in foreclosure, expecting to be served with a foreclosure lawsuit, or suspect your lender has coerced you into an illegal mortgage transaction? A huge number of mortgages made in the last 10 years have legal issues and are possibly defective. State laws and the U.S. Supreme Court have upheld that defective mortgage documents are grounds for foreclosure defense and for counterclaims in favor of the homeowner. If your mortgage has been sold or assigned since closing the loan, it may be defective and you may be paying the wrong party, and the lender may not have standing or the right to foreclose or collect payments under the law. If you would like to know if your mortgage is legal or not, or know if you are paying the right party, we can help. Our initial consultations are free of charge. We are not attorneys. We are legal researchers and work closely with experienced lawyers who know how to help you find the evidence to help you keep your home. Call toll-free 1-855-2-KEEP-IT. That's 1-855-2-KEEP-IT today.
Ladies and gentlemen, J.R. Moore here. We have a special promotion going on at Republic Broadcasting. This is a fundraiser for Republic Broadcasting involving the Energy Planner. Mail me a postcard. My address is at my website at thelibertyman.com. We pick a postcard every other Thursday. When your postcard is drawn out, you get to buy an Energy Planner for $215 instead of $285, $70 discount. $200 goes to Republic Broadcasting. You also get a 10% discount on my mattress pads. So get those postcards in, put your name, your telephone number, your email address on there, and when your postcard is drawn, you get to get an Energy Cleaner for $215 instead of $285. Mattress pads, 10% off. Help us out at Republic Broadcasting and help yourself to get an Energy Cleaner at a deep discount. It's a win-win situation for everybody. We hope you can get these postcards in soon. Thank you very much.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
Extendovite really works. Here are some reviews from Amazon.com. Amazon customer, 5 out of 5 stars. I'm quite happy about it. This product has relieved what appears to be an angina problem, pain in the chest after climbing stairs, and short on breath. I'm quite happy about it. Dr. Sam Surreal. Good product and ingredients. Kept my blood pressure normal after mild heart attack in 2015. Switched to plant-based diet also to reverse atherosclerosis. John Bispicos, 5 out of 5 stars. Built up my immune system. To order, call 1-877-928-8822. That's 1-877-928-8822 or visit our website at heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
We the people, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty.
Welcome back to our show here. The phone lines are completely open. Again, area code 512-248-8252. And getting on back to the news here, we've all sort of become used to the idea of having to rely on Russia's Roscosmos to fly American astronauts to the International Space Station. Well, now that we have SpaceX and these other privatized launch systems coming online here, the United States is turning around and it's going to place sanctions on the Russian Space Agency. And apparently, because it's part of the Russian Ministry of Defense, apparently Washington, D.C. is planning economic penalties. And the proposed sanctions would also target Rosatom, which is Russia's nuclear energy agency, as one of 28 organizations in the aviation, rocket, space, nuclear, instrument, and engine industries. Again, poke, 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 trying to get a reaction here. According to the news agency RIA Novosti, which has seen the document, pardon me, the suggested measures are also aimed at Chinese companies who work with Beijing's military. So they're still out there, poking and provoking, and really, it's amazing. Interestingly enough, this last week, something weird kind of happened over in Utah. There was some state workers were flying a helicopter over a relatively deserted part of the state, and they spotted this odd monolith, and nobody knows where it came from. And its exact GPS coordinates were posted, and I was able to locate it in Google Earth and determine that it was put up sometime in 2015 by using that little way back time icon they have at the top of Google Earth here. And so apparently the Utah Department of Public Safety Division of Wildlife Resources flew past it last Wednesday and discovered it, and it became an instant viral sensation all over the net. And apparently it has now mysteriously disappeared and been replaced by a triangle. So, all the UFO people are out there saying it's space aliens, it's 2001 A Space Odyssey, it's, whatever. But apparently a similar version of the monolith appeared nearly 20 years ago on New Year's Day in Seattle, Washington. And apparently there have been one or two others that are pieces in modern art museums. And it's just a big slab of metal. And they've identified an artist who passed away recently, saying it might have been him because of comments he used to make about wanting to put his artworks where people would have trouble finding them. So that's where that went here. Over in Indonesia, the Lewotolo volcano has erupted. So far, no injuries or damage is reported on Lombok Island, which is home to more than 100,000 people. Now, there are videos of the eruption all over YouTube, and the footage shows people running in panic from the area. But according to Volcano Discovery, seismologists had warned local residents about a high level of activity from the volcano and advised that they use face coverings to protect their respiratory system from particles in the air. And that absolutely is valid in that case here, because what they call volcanic ash is actually very fine particles of glass. And so you definitely do not want to get that into your lungs. It can cause all kinds of hemorrhaging, and it's nasty stuff. We got to see a lot of that when we were living in Washington State. After Mount St. Helens blew up, it was just all over the place here. Okay, now over in Great Britain, we're going to back up here and do some more stuff about COVID-19. Britain's COVID vaccine minister is saying that bars, cinemas, and football stadiums could ban British citizens who have not had the vaccine jab. And apparently Boris Johnson and Number 10 are looking for so-called immunity passports. And so that's going to be the new form of ID. Papers, please. May we have your papers, please? All righty. Now, Joe Biden, even though he is saying that he's de-emphasizing COVID in favor of a pathway to citizenship for illegal immigrants, he's appointed a crusader for the COVID-19 task force who's anti-supplement. This is Dr. David Kessler. He's an anti-supplement crusader, a drug industry advisor, and former FDA commissioner, and he's been named to the COVID-19 task force. Now, you know, the big pharmaceutical industries don't like supplements. They don't like vitamins. They want you coming to them for anything that you're going to put into your body or rub on your skin or shove up your nose. There's been a war on vitamins for a long time. For a while, colloidal silver was actually illegal. Then it was brought back due to public demand, but only at reduced concentrations. So it's all about preserving the monopoly. All right, apparently over in Maryland, the governor there has expanded their snitch line for people to call on other people not wearing a mask. And he's saying there is no constitutional right to refuse wearing masks. Technically, he's correct, although some people are trying to say, you know, it's a blow to freedom of expression and freedom of speech. I think those are very, very weak arguments, but I really get bothered by all of this encouraging the people to snitch on each other. All righty, we're going to go back to the phones here. W in Texas. Hello, W. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Yes, Mike. So 8 months later, after we talked about hydroxychloroquine and how it works, you know, they found out there's actually other, I think the word is Ionis 4. So that's a type of medicine that allows another medicine to get into the cell. And so hydroxychloroquine is the Ionis 4, I believe I'm saying that right, for zinc. Zinc stops the replication of the virus. You throw in azithromycin, that stops the bacterial infection. 8 months later, and we still have people that have been mind manipulated by the media. And we have doctors and nurses and medical professionals that are not doing their due diligence, or I guess are afraid of losing their job or whatever, from a simple, cheap, effective treatment, a cheap therapy. And now we are on the brink, Mike, 8 months later, of being not necessarily forced vaccinated, but what they're doing, as you can see, like today, they said movie theaters are now talking about forcing or requiring people, patrons, to have a vaccine. You know, that's where we are now. 8 months later, that's exactly where we are. And I think it's really sick that we got to this point. And I guess my last thought is Trump is kind of like on the fence. It's really, I don't know what to call it. I don't know what to say. He's just kind of swinging back and forth. And I understand he's in a crazy situation, but whatever happens in the next couple of weeks, man, it's going to be really crazy. It's just, I can't believe we're here at this point. Yeah.
No, I can't believe it either here. You know, we're coming up on the Electoral College meeting, and if Trump is going to do something, it's got to happen in the next 2 weeks.
Yeah, exactly. And it's funny that we're having I guess, Electoral College. They said they're trying to push these vaccines in the middle of December, which is around the same time. So it's like people are kind of constrained on what to do. You know, it's really crazy. And that's my thoughts. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you very much for the phone call here. And we know that whatever was given to Donald Trump worked almost immediately here. And again, we had that story that came out last week where hydroxychloroquine and zinc and azithromycin did seem to cure the disease, but it's still being discouraged because there's more money in getting everybody to be vaccinated. And it kind of reminds me of the former Soviet Union, where they had a two-tiered medical system. And there was the regular medical system for the ordinary Soviet citizens, and then there were the elite state medical institutions to which only the politicians and rulers could go, where they had access to medications that ordinary people could not get. And it seems like we're going down this same path. Now, speaking of medications and vaccination, there is a new children's doll product known as Crybabies. And this is a raw piece of propaganda, because apparently the commercial basically shows these girls playing with a doll named Crystal that has these strange red spots on her face. And when the girls notice the spots, they immediately inject the doll with a toy hypodermic, which makes the red spots disappear on contact. So this is just outright brainwashing to get the kids to go along with this whole vaccine mentality. And again, for those of you old enough to remember 1976, these things can be dangerous. I remember when Gardasil first came out, they were talking about narcolepsy in some of these patients. And, it's just a huge moneymaker. I mean, I remember back when medicine made their money by curing sick people, and the new business model is to sell medicines to perfectly healthy people. And if the medicines make those people sick, well, there's just more money there. And it's basically keeping us all intentionally sick in order to maximize their profitability. All righty, getting on back to the economic news here. We're coming up here on the first of the year, and unless there is an intervention, tens of millions of Americans may be looking at eviction after the holiday season. And the can was sort of kicked down the road throughout 2020, but all of the rent is still due. And landlords are very eager to collect because the bankers from whom they got the mortgages on their rental properties are very eager to collect. And a lot of these landlords are themselves on the verge of financial ruin because of the moratoriums that were put in place. And unfortunately, a lot of these families that are in these homes, coronavirus has, the pandemic has wrecked their jobs, their livelihood. And they can't pay the current rent, let alone the backlog. And so, we're looking at the first of the year going into a new depression. And they're going to blame it on the pandemic. But we know that the roots of this depression go back way, way before the virus ever showed up. All right, Edward Snowden is now out there. He's making a lot of appearances by video, obviously, and doing a lot of interviews. And I think it's partly because there is now an active discussion of Donald Trump pardoning him along with Julian Assange. So Edward Snowden took to the video to basically go after the big tech companies like Facebook about how they're censoring and controlling information, which is not really their job. Okay, we still have a First Amendment in this country. And if the Citizens United decision says that corporations are legal persons to whom the First Amendment applies, then it has to apply both directions. It can't just be selective here. So Snowden basically went on about these big tech companies are in collusion with governments and also corporations to basically censor information that is contrary to the official pronouncements, and also to change the behavior of people as well, especially journalists. And when you take away somebody's livelihood as a result of noncompliance, you are, in a way, forcing them to comply and do and say things the way these corporate media want them done and said. And that's tyranny here. Now, Snowden went on to basically say it's time to end the war on whistleblowers, and he was responding to a smear attack from a GOP politician that he, Edward Snowden, and Julian Assange are Russian agents. That's sort of the fallback. Anytime that you're not in agreement with what the government and the corporations are saying, oh, you must be a Russian or a Chinese agent. How could we listen to you? So forth and so on here. Now, interestingly enough, as you know, Britain has gone back into the tier 3 lockdowns. They're mongering the fear as much as they can. But apparently, according to the National Health Service in England, there are now thousands more available hospital beds this year than last winter. And they count only 4 hospitals in all of England that are now busier than last winters. And top doctors are blasting number 10 Downing Street for this brainwashing PR campaign to scare people into lockdown. And again, it's being used for propaganda purposes. First, it was to get the mail-in voting done. Now it's to basically keep us to wear the masks, which depersonalizes us and destroys our identities, unless you buy one of those masks where they print your face on it, which I think is a good idea here. Okay, over in New York City, along with the other COVID-19 lockdown things they're doing, apparently they're starting to ban cash in a lot of the stores, especially the larger ones, that purchases are only allowed with a credit or debit card. So they're pushing that agenda in this pandemic as well. Now, you need to remember, as far as cash is concerned, part of the formula for the paper on which our notes are printed is a bacteriostatic chemical. So it's the old joke about, germs live on money. Actually, not for very long. And certainly germs could never live on the money that I make. A little bit more of the space news here. And this is kind of cool. Apparently, teams of high school students are competing to design and drive lunar races. And apparently the top two contenders will be flown to the moon in October of next year on a SpaceX Falcon 9. And they're going to be taken down to the lunar surface on an Intuitive Machines lander, and they're going to have a race on the moon. And, one of the things I like about SpaceX, they have that little touch of whimsy about them. If you look at the names of their recovery ships, for example, they're not taking themselves too seriously. I mean, when Musk put his Tesla speeder on one of the first test launches of the rocket, and he flew his little space Tesla and his little astronaut statue out there, and it's out by Mars now. Okay, we have to take a break for commercial. We'll be back with the last segment of our show. The phone lines are open, area code 512-248-8252, and we will be right back.
Here at Republic Broadcasting Network, we have been building our online store. Well, we have been focusing on bringing you the best talk show host in the country. Here at Republic Broadcasting Network, we also want our listeners to have products they can use every day and in times of emergency. We have added new products each week to our store. Your support of this network, plus products at the best prices, is a win-win situation. Check out our new store. Go to our website, republicbroadcasting.org, and click on the online store located at the top of our website. Together, we can continue to grow RBN and help our listeners prepare for the future. Go to republicbroadcasting.org and click on our online store or call us.
800-724-2719, extension 3. 800-724-2719, extension 3.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
After about a month of Extendovite, I don't know what it is about the circulation factor. I was able to increase the weight, increase the amount of sets I could do. It has to do with the oxygen getting to the blood. You should market this as an athletic performance. And I don't change anything about my diet or anything. I just thought, this is amazing. Bilberry extract is got something called resveratrol in it, which is the same stuff that you get from red wine. It's also good for eyesight. And I was reading that the Royal Air Force during World War II would give their pilots bilberry jam so they could have better night vision stuff. This is amazing.
To order, call 1-877-928-8822. That's 1-877-928-8822, or visit our website at heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
Here at Republic Broadcasting Network, we have been building our online store. Well, we have been focusing on bringing you the best talk show host in the country. Here at Republic Broadcasting Network, we also want our listeners to have products they can use every day and in times of emergency. We have added new products each week to our store. Your support of this network, plus products at the best prices, is a win-win situation. check out our new store. Go to our website, republicbroadcasting.org, and click on the online store located at the top of our website. Together, we can continue to grow RBN and help our listeners prepare for the future. Go to republicbroadcasting.org and click on our online store or call us
800-724-2719 extension 3. 800-724-2719 extension 3.
Politicians and preachers once sometimes told the truth. We didn't throw war's first stone and sacrifice our finest youth. With no video games or cell phones, a house felt like a home. Children fought and played together instead of on a computer alone. Big MacDonald had a farm.
Welcome back to our show here. Last segment of our program today here. And on this last commercial break, I stepped out back to take a look at the snow coming down, and it is starting to stick. So I'm thinking by morning we'll have a little winter scene out our window here. And getting on back to the world of science, there's been this amazing discovery down along the Amazon. They have found this cliff face. It is 8 miles long, and it excuse me, should have worn a jacket outside. Anyway, it's got these tens of thousands of Ice Age paintings that date back to 12,500 years ago. And that, I think, is rather amazing. I do love the science here. Let's see. Apparently, Greta Thunberg has weighed in on Black Friday, and obviously today is Cyber Monday here, saying, don't buy stuff you don't need, which I think for the most part is the way we do our shopping. And I know that the online sales definitely showed records this year. The retail establishments are still struggling because everybody's still afraid of COVID-19. So anyway, apparently, this is an important one for people who have iPhones, of which I am one. Apparently, Italy has fined Apple 10 million euros, saying that Apple's claims about the iPhone's water resistance are misleading. And I know the short version is 30 minutes at 30 feet. But apparently, the National Competition Authority, AGCM, found that Apple's claims did not hold up in real-world conditions. Apparently, they're saying that Apple validated the water resistance with pure water in laboratory conditions. And of course, that's not real world. You have to deal not just with the ambient pressure, but the dynamic pressure of falling through the water as well. So AGCM said Apple is not covering water damage under warranty, despite claims of water resistance. They described it as an aggressive practice. And apparently, the advertising at issue promised iPhones were water resistant at a depth of 13 feet for 30 minutes. I misspoke before here. And the same claim was made for a range of phones across several years, from the iPhone 8 to the iPhone 11 and their variations. So apparently, they're being sued again. Apple has also settled the iPhone slowdown case for $500 million. They're also being fined 1.1 billion euros in France. So, got to clean up your act. Good products, good product design, but you can't lie to people like that. All righty, we're coming up here on the end of the show. And I have been informed that Steve Elkins is going to be on with John Stadmiller tonight. So stay tuned for them. I'm sure they're going to have lots of interesting things to share with you. Please spread the word of Republic Broadcasting. Please spread the word of whatreallyhappened.com. Please donate. It has never been more critical than right now. And we'll be back tomorrow. Aloha, America.